Bodies are quite heavy. Heavier dead, I've always thought. Who am I tonight? A builder? No, that's this guy. Used to be this guy. Oh, right. A bricklayer. I've been so many people I lose track. How best to load him into my cart? Night watchman will be on the road. At least one will want to look underneath the covering. I've killed my fair share of nightmen, but I don't like to. Swift cracks to the head aren't fun. Not as much fun as watching them slowly realize they're going to choke on themselves. I enjoy that fear in the eyes. My builder here had it. He had a lot of it. I went outside to my cart. Looked like no one was watching. I'd lined up some bricks around the sides like a wall. I pulled the cart as close to the door as I could. I hoisted my work of art, my painting, my dead builder, over my shoulder and tossed him into the middle of the cart. Now the tedious business of covering him up. I grabbed the brick in one hand. Hey, you there! Someone said from behind me. Peter always found it hard to look away from Vildrax's skull. But Herr Lorenz's buckle was something that tore his attention away from the head of the dragon. The head of the blacksmith guild in Ischeneisen looked as serious as death. Sir Daniel nudged him, and Peter realized Baroness Sophia was swirling an empty wine glass. He snuck a glance to Sir Siegfried, who stood in the front row. The warhammer of his house proudly stitched on his jerkin. Peter took the wine pitcher into Baroness's cup. Her eyes seemed to be made of the coldest stone. She nodded at him and watched the count. The Slayer sat high on a stage. His seat was in the jaws of the great dragon he killed 6 decades prior. If one were to speak to him in court, they had to do so looking up through the rows of teeth the size of dinner knives. Sir Siegfried pulled up his cloak. Was he cold? Herr Lorenz stood in front of the dragon's skull throne. By his side was the Ischeneisen headsman Victor, the head of town justice. He was a commoner, albeit a rich one. He looked somewhat out of place with the Lord Steward and the barons and lords of court. Victor began, "My count, the people involved in the death of Enon of the Ravenchild House Guard have been hanged. Peace will be enforced in Ischeneisen." Count Willem nodded. "I am sure my Lord Steward appreciates the swift application of justice. What of this priest who stirred up the passions of the crowd? The one speaking against me and my court?" Victor shifted and cleared his throat. "That is proving troubling, my count. Brother Ullman is hiding. My men are... He must be found," the count demanded. The court murmured in agreement. Victor cleared his throat again. "I agree. However, he is quite popular with the people. He even has supporters among the town watch." "Give me 10 good men, my count," Sir Belviel roared. 10, and we shall flush him out in a day's time." "Silence," Peter's father ordered. "You will have your turn to speak, sir." Sir Belviel was drunk again, as he was the days before. It seemed the loss of his friend that day in town had driven him to drown his grief. Lorenz cleared his throat. That is a course of action I do not recommend, my count," Sir Belviel demanded. "And why not?" He realized his error, saw the look the Slayer was sending. In the night, slunk back into the crowd. Count Willem asked, "And why would that be, Herr Lorenz? It isn't a bad suggestion." Sir Siegfried coughed, or maybe he cleared his throat. What was he eating? Peter glanced at Hugh, who was watching Herr Lorenz. Hugh met Peter's eyes and shrugged. Lorenz continued, "My lord, Ischeneisen has its own guard. We don't wish to burden you with taking men from your castle." "It's no burden to capture this rascal who threatens order in my realm, Herr Lorenz." Lorenz cleared his throat and took a step forward. He was now at the foot of the throne. Anglian house guards gripped their spears and stood straighter. This was the closest anyone was to the Count, and the closest anyone was allowed to go. Sir Siegfried gulped. Was he ill? Nervous? Lorenz said. My Count, your castle's iron and steel is supplied largely by my guild. Not to disparage your own castle armory, but it would be troublesome if that supply chain were to be interrupted because of excess soldiers in town. There was a chilly laugh that hacked the air to bits. Baroness Sophia took a well-calculated swig from her cup. My Count, I may have had too much wine, but I believe I heard a threat? Lorenz sighed. You're mistaken, milady. Baroness, and I know threats when I hear them, mein Freund. I deliver them often myself. No, my Baroness, not a threat. I am trying to tell you that people get scared. With the Salzburg conflict over, supply chains are finally returning to normalcy. However, people will less likely want to travel outside of town if the Skullholt has men in town. I believe it would be advantageous to allow us our own freedom to resume this investigation, and your armories can continue to receive deliveries from my forges without delay. Such as the one arriving in 2 days' time, my Count and Baroness. The Slayer drummed his fingers on the arm of the throne. He glanced to Baroness Sophia, who took an innocent sip from her cup. I shall grant you 2 weeks, Herr Victor. 2 weeks, and this rogue priest must be in my dungeon in chains. Victor and Lorenz bowed and thanked Count Willem for his wisdom. Sir Belbio followed Victor with fire in his eyes. Peter fooled some guards with an empty box to get into Sir Siegfried's private quarters. He searched for anything that might indicate he was sick. Well, nothing for Sir Siegfried, Peter said in a low tone. Hugh said, maybe you're mistaken then. I don't like all this meddling with commoner woods magic. Peter looked out the window and into the woods in the mountains. It was green, very green. A tree looked to be reaching out to him. He shot his hand into his pocket and held the charcoal. The hammer thundered down and pounded metal. It rose again. Something slipped by, something made of a horseshoe, something made of horseshoes and another in tongs. It missed. The hammer missed it, and cold crept up and broke it into a million pieces. It turned into fanged teeth. Peter? Peter breathed in relief. The hammer struck something, metal, or tried to. I can't rule out Sir Siegfried. Warhammers hit armor and shields and miss them, but the hammer on his sigil doesn't touch anything metal. So he's less likely then. The builders? Hammers strike iron nails and chisels, and they frequently miss. Peter shook his head. Let's go around the castle, take a detour. Maybe go to the armory. Maybe we can see some of the builders. They passed the armory, and the sounds of metal on metal and the sizzle of hot steel filled the air. Doesn't the smell of burning metal heat up your blood? Peter asked. Very German of you. No, not particularly. I prefer flowers and baked brioche. Peter sighed. One of the apprentices was shaping some iron. Where was Wrex? Peter took a step into the open doorway and into the workshop. Apprentices were hammering away, a long list of what needed to be done pinned to the wall. It looked like a lot, and all due by the guild delivery of 2 days. An apprentice gave Peter a stiff nod and mumbled my lord. Peter glanced around. He saw Rex's awful helmet. A hammer was lying next to some other tools. Unfortunately, when he began apprenticing, Wrex made Peter a promise that he will make him his first helm when he's knighted. Hopefully, Wrex would get more practice by then. Peter's dagger was also there, the handle stripped of all leather, preparing to be reforged. The apprentice picked up a bundle. No wonder they hate Lorenz, the bastard. Getting fat while running us ragged he is. Another apprentice seemed to agree before helping him out the door. Peter and Hugh were alone. They? Peter asked. Yeah, probably the guild. Could the hammer mean someone here, mon ami? Peter pulled at his collar and let some air in. In here? The hammer is supposed to freeze to death. It's sweltering. The back door swung open. Peter grabbed Hugh and pulled him behind a work table. Thank you, my boy. I'm glad you're feeling well. Yeah, doctor. I'm just a little tired, but work is hard and there's a lot of it. And I have to pick up a delivery from Herr Lorenz soon and get to the castle. Dr. Ordov laughed and patted Wrex on the shoulder. Of course. You do wonderful work, Wrex. Keep it up, and maybe someday you'll make armor for the Count, huh? Peter knew Wrex too well. Peter couldn't see his face, but he knew for a fact that Wrex was lighting up right now at the thought. Peter pulled Hugh, and they ducked out a side door. That was odd. Why would Ordov be visiting Wrex? Hugh said. She was checking if Wrex was feeling okay. Why? Peter said, maybe she's going around to the commoners to see any patterns to the cough. The builders were up on their ladders, hammering away at the tower. Anything, Peter? Peter tried to trigger a vision, but it wouldn't come. Could the builders freeze to death here? It was windy. Blacksmiths are upset with Lorenz, Peter said. They mentioned that. The guild in Easteneisen seems to be as well. Peter stopped and started picking at the brick wall with his fingernail. Lorenz's delivery, though, tomorrow. I don't know, the hammer seems to hit something made of metal, but it seems to miss something that looks like Lorenz's sigil. Like it slips away. Maybe the hammer will miss the delivery. That fits. Your visions take a short time to come true, we? Tomorrow's pretty soon. What if it's Lorenz? He's a blacksmith after all, hammer? Peter thought, okay, could be. What kills him? Brita said poison or food could do it, right? What if the guild? What if the guild? Could the guild do it? It's the best lead we have, mon ami. So the blacksmith guild is going to kill Lorenz before the delivery tomorrow afternoon? Is that our theory? Peter spun away without answering. He went to the armory and found Wrex pulling Peter's dagger off the shelf. He wiped some sweat away and rubbed his eyes. Pete? Be careful. You might get your fingernails dirty. Yeah, funny for a peasant. Do you know anyone who would want to hurt Lorenz? Wrex must have been working hard. His eyes were glassy, and he took a moment before answering. Herr Lorenz, the guildmaster? Yeah, half the whole guild in town hates him. Yeah, we hate him. And is it true he threatened Count Willem in court? What a doomkampf. So the list of who doesn't want him dead is shorter, Pete. Why? Well, Wrex, he might be in danger. Hopefully. No, I'm serious. Well, he's coming back up here tomorrow to make sure his delivery goes well. Fancy lamb's head for a fancy night. And some ore and stuff. I'm helping receive him halfway down the mountain. Well, be careful, okay, Wrex? I need you to make my armor when I'm knighted. Wrex smiled and cleared his throat. Don't worry, Pete. When you ride out in battle one day, you'll be fully protected by my work. After tomorrow, I'll get that helmet on the shelf in shape for you.